Welcome to project 34 of this course. So in this video we're going to be creating a text formatter by just using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So now let's suppose if I just write like HuXn WebDev, and if you want all of these to be like in uppercase, so for that we can just click on the first button. So it will now make our text as uppercase, and this one will make it a lowercase, this one will make it a capitalized, this one will make it a bold, this one will make it italic, and finally we have this underline right here. Okay, so this is what we are going to be building by just using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So without wasting any further time, now let's jump right into our code editor and write our code. Alright, so welcome to the 34th project of this course. So in this video we are going to be creating a text formatter by just using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So first of all, let me just create a folder, give a name of like 034 and then text formatter. Okay, so inside this text formatter folder we have to just create three files. The first one will be index.html, the second one will be, let me just write it there, style.css, and the third one will be .js. Okay, so now let me just zoom in a bit so we can see everything a bit clearly. Alright, so the first thing I'll do is I'll just write our doc type HTML, and here I'll change the text or the title to be text formatter. Okay, and now let's just link it with our CSS file. And now let's just link it with our JavaScript file as well. Save it, and now let's just hide our meta, then right click on it and open with the live server. So now we open our file with the live server. Alright, so that's that. So for HTML we are going to be writing a container. First of all, div with the class of container. Inside this container we are going to be writing another div with the class of input count container. Okay, so here we are going to be placing all of our input. So first thing I would do is I'll write h2 and like type in your words. Okay, and then we are going to be writing like input with the type of text and the ID of input field. Okay, and also we are going to be adding a placeholder of like type your text here. Okay, so that's that. And underneath this div we are going to be writing our buttons container. Inside this buttons container it will just hold all of our buttons. So I'll just write like button of class btn and then uppercase, and then I'll just write like abc in the uppercase, then button with the class of button as well and with a lower case. And now let me just write it like lowercase abc. Next thing which you have to do is to create a new button with a class of button, and then we just have to write like capitalize, and it will be now equals to abc, like a capitalize. And now let's create a new button with the class of button and italic, and now let's just write italic right here, duplicate, and it will be now equals to bold. And now let's just write or b right here for boldness, and now let's just duplicate it and it will be now equals to underline. And now let's just write like abc with the underline text. We cannot write underline text in our Visual Story Code Editor, but once we save it, so this is it for HTML. So the first thing we did is we have this container which will just hold the input container and which will hold this h2 and this input text right here in this input box right here. Then we have a buttons container and it will just hold all of these buttons right here. Okay, so that's going to be it for HTML. So now let's jump right into a CSS, and now let's just style it. So I'll just set everything to like side by side. So that's going to be there. So the first thing I would do for CSS is I'll provide our resets right here, like padding will be 0 and margin will also be 0 and box sizing will be border box. Save it, and that's going to be the resets. And now let's select our body, and text align will be center. Okay, and then we have to just write our background color of this CCEF. And now let's just write a height of 100 VH, and we have to write a display of flex, and then we have to write a flex direction of column, so that we want everything to be perfectly center. Justify corner will be center and align items will be center. Alright, so everything is now totally center because we provide a display of flex and this stuff to the body. Alright, so that's that. So the next thing which you have to select is our container right here. Okay, so now let's just select our container. Let me just select our container, and we have to just provide a little bit of padding to it, like 6 rem will be fine, and background will be totally black. Save it, and this is how it looks like right now. The next thing which you have to do is to select this h2 right here. So we are going to be writing like container and then h2 inside that container. So we have this container and we have that h2 inside this container. So we are going to be writing like a color of totally white. And then font family, you can choose whichever you like, but I'll just go with the sans serif. Font size will be 3 rem, so I'll just write 3 rems right there. And then margin bottom will be just 40 pixels. Save it, and this is how it looks like right now. Okay, so that's that. The next thing which you have to do is to just select our inputs and our input containers. So you want to select this input. Where are you? You want to select this input container, and inside this input container we want to select this input right here. So we are going to be writing like input container, and now let's just select our input inside that input container. Given width of 100%, and padding will be just 10 pixel, and margin bottom will be just equals to 20 pixel. Outline will be totally none. Save it, and this is how it look like right here. Okay, so that's that. The next thing which you have to do is to select all of our buttons, so like all of these buttons right here. So for them we are going to be just writing like button, and now we select all of the button, provide a padding of top and bottom to 10 pixel, left and right will be 20 pixel, font value will be bold, font weight will be bold, cursor will be pointer, and this background color will be just this like blue violet color, and also the text color will be totally white, and then the border will be none, and margin will be just 10 pixel all around. Save it, and this is how it looks like right here. Okay, so if I just make it bigger, this is how it looks like. All right, so that's that. The next thing which you have to do is to select our p tag. Okay, so you know what, I'll just make it bigger so that we can focus on our code. Alright, so that was it about for buttons. So now the next thing which you have to do is, I forgot to include this paragraph right here, so I'll just write a paragraph with the ID of output field, because we are going to be rendering our data right here, like output would be fine. So that's that. So now let's just format this output right here. And so you know what, we have just like one paragraph in all of these HTML, so we are going to be just selecting that manually. So I'll just write it like paragraph. So I'm going to give him a width, like a width of like 600 pixel, duplicate in height will be also 600 pixel, background will be that same background which is like CCEF, and then we have a color which will be totally black, and then we have a height of 80 pixel, and we have to give them a border of 1 pixel solid, and this 555, so it will now use us that border. And now the next thing which you have to do is to just provide a little bit of border radius to it. So we are going to be writing like text 10 pixel of border radius. Display will be flex, so we want everything to be perfectly center. Justify content will be center, align items will be center, and then margin will be just auto all around, and then margin top will be just like 2 rems, and then font family we would choose the sans serif right here, serif file, and this is our output box right here. So whenever we start typing something in here, so this text will come up here, and then we can format it right here. Okay, so now let me just remove them. So this is our paragraph. So now let's select our uppercase, lowercase, capitalize, underline, and italic styles right now. So we are going to be writing like uppercase, and now let's just change the text transform of it to like uppercase, and now let's just duplicate a few times like so, and then we have is a capitalize, so capitalize. Okay, and now let's just change this one to capitalize. Now let's change this one to underline, and change this one to text decoration of underline. Finally change this one to italic, and then font style to be italic. Okay, server file, and this is how it looks like right now. Here you can see we have this italic style, we have this uppercase, lowercase, and capitalized case, and that's that. All right, so I guess we are done with the HTML and CSS. So now let's jump right into a JavaScript and write our interactivity. All right, so for JavaScript we would need a few things. The first one will be input field, so input field, and then we would need is an output field, because we want to render or data to output field, and we want to grab all of these buttons. Okay, so now let me just write there first of all. So const, we are going to be writing like input field, and will be equals to document dot get element by id. So you're going to be writing like input field. Okay, so that's that. The next thing which you have to grab is like output field. Okay, it will be equals to document get element by id, because we provided id, and output field. Save it, and now finally we have to grab all of these buttons. So for that we are going to be using like buttons and document dot query selector all right here. Okay, so now we selected that. Now just write a button right here. Okay, so now let me show you all of these IDs. So input field, let's copy it, check it. So here's our input field. Then we have is output field. So now let's just paste it here. So here's our output field, and here we have all of these buttons right here. Okay, so now let me just remove that, and first of all let me just show you all of them in console so that we didn't mess up something. So field and duplicate 3 times, then we have is output field. Now finally we have is a buttons right here. Okay, save it and then open our developer tools. So here you can see we have input field, output field, and all of these buttons. So if you just hover over to it, so here you can see we have now selected all of these buttons. All right, so that's that. So now I'll just remove these console logs from there and those comments from there as well. So the next thing I would do is I'll just attach event listener on this input field. So for that we are going to be just writing like input field dot add event listener, and we want to attach this event like key ops. So first of all let me just show you that inside a console log, and then you'll get to know what I'm talking about. All right, so that's that. And now if you just log something to the console like console.log of like hello, and yeah, hello would be fine. Okay, so let me just make it to the right. So now let's suppose if I just write something like I don't know, a, so here you can see it will now give us a hello. So whenever we press a button, so it will now just fire this function right here. So that's why we use this key up event listener right there. All right, so now let's just remove this hello from there, and now also remove our console from there. Now we have to just write like output field, or you know what, we can make it a bit smaller, this curve. We don't need these curly braces from there. So we are going to be just writing like output field, and we want to change the inner HTML of it to like just an input field dot value. Okay, and this is going to be it. So what we are doing, so whenever we type something in this input field, so we want to just change the output inner HTML, which is this like output inner HTML. So you want to change the inner HTML of this area to this input value right here. So once we save our file, and now if you type something like I don't know, something, okay, so it will now change it right here as well, like something. And if you just write like I don't know, like HuXn WebDev, so it will now change it to this HuXn WebDev. And now if you just remove it, so it will now remove it from there as well. All right, so this is that. So the next thing which we have to do is to just write a lot of if and else statement. Okay, so then we just have to write a buttons, and now we have to iterate over through all of these buttons right here. So we are going to be just grabbing a button right here, and now let's just attach event listener to all of these buttons. So whenever we click on each of the button, okay, so then we want to fire this event. So now in this case I'm going to zoom out a bit because we are going to be writing a lot of if and else statements. So if the button, like if we click on whichever button we click on, so you want to check if the class list let me just write class list dot contains uppercase. If this contain like whichever button we click on contains uppercase, so what do we have to do? Then we have to do is to just write like output field dot inner HTML, and it will be now equals to output field dot inner HTML dot to uppercase. Okay, so you want to just make it bigger. So once we save it, and now if you type something right here in lowercase, and you know what, I'm gonna just write like my name HuXn WebDev. If you click on this button, nothing's gonna happen, still nothing's gonna happen. But if you click on this uppercase one, and this includes this class right here, which have the class of uppercase right here, and if we click on this one, so here you can see it will now make it bigger. Okay, so this was quite simple and easy. So now let me just remove that from there, and now let's check our else if block, like else if that's not true, and then we have to check like btn.classlist.contains, and we want to just check for the capitalized one. So we want to check like capitalize and make it spell right. And then we have to just change like output field dot inner HTML, and it will be now equals to like output field dot inner HTML, and we want to write a char add like character add 0, and then we want to use this like to uppercase first of all, and now let's call that, and then we want to plus like add this output field dot inner HTML dot slice. We want to use a slice right here, and then we want to change the first one to dot lowercase. So we want to just grab the first letter and we want to make it capitalized. Okay, so once we save our file, and now alright, so I'll just write like HuXn WebDev, and then I'll just click on this first one, so it will just make it like uppercase. And if you click on this capitalized one, so no, this is not a capitalized one because this is a lowercase. And if you click on this one, so here you can see it will now make it capitalized. So it will just grab the first element, I mean like the first letter, and it will make it uppercase, and the rest of them will be lowercase right here. Okay, so that's why it will now make it capitalized. All right, so that's that. So the next field which you have to check is to just write like else if, and then we have to just write like button dot class list dot contains bold. Okay, so if the button contains bold, so now here we just have to write like output field dot style dot font weight, and it will be now equals to like, I don't know, 400 will be fine. So I guess this 500 will be fine. Okay, so if I just write like my name, so I'll just write like HuXn WebDev, and now I want to make it bold. So if you click on that, nothing's gonna happen, and I don't know why. So now let's go towards HTML, and okay, so it's blurred. It should be bold. Okay, save it, and now if you type something, and now if you click on this bold, so it will still not make it bold. I don't know why, but let's just change the font weight to like 900 would be fine, and click on it. So here you can see it will now make it bold right here. Okay, so that's that. The next thing which you have to do is to just write other else if statement. So I'll just write like else if, and then we have to just write like btn dot class list dot contains italic. So italic, if that's italic, so we have to just write like output dot style dot font style, and it will be now equals to italic. So italic would be fine. Save our file, and now if you just write like something right here, and now if you want to make it italic, so you just click on this italic, and it will now make it italic. So now let me just do it one more time. If I just write my name like HuXn WebDev, now if you want to italic this text, so I'll just click on this one, and here you can see it will now make it italic. The next thing which you have to do is to make it underline. So I'll just write like else if btn dot class list dot contains, and then underline. Okay, so if you click on that button like underline, so we want our output field dot style, we want to add like a text decoration, and then underline. Okay, so once we save that, and if you click on this underline, so it will now make it underline. So if you type something and then something else, and then if you click on this underline, it will make it underline. This one will make it italic, this one will make it bold, this one will make it capitalized, this one will make it to like uppercase. And if you click on this lowercase, so it will not make it lowercase because we forgot to do that. All right, so here I want to hit enter, and then else if, and we want to check like if btn dot class list dot contains lowercase. So now here we're going to have to write like, let me just remove this empty space from there, and now here we just have to write like output field dot inner html will be equals to like output field dot inner html dot to lowercase. And now if we call this function, save it, and if we write like something on the uppercase, like something right here, and if you click on this lowercase, so if you click on that, so it will now just make it like lowercase right here. Okay, so now let me just refresh there and see everything. Like if I just type something or something right here, and if you click on the first one, it will make it uppercase. If you click on the second one, it will make it lowercase. If you click on this capitalized, it will not make it capitalized. If you click on this bold one, it will make it bold one. If you click on this italic, so it will now make it italic. And if you click on this underline, so it will now make it underline right here. Okay, so that's that. So I guess that was it about this project. So now if you guys don't know about Git and GitHub, so feel free to skip this video because I'm going to be pushing my code into my GitHub repository. So if you want to watch there, so you can still watch there, otherwise you can just jump right into the next project. So now I'll just close all of them, and this was quite simple and easy project. We don't provide a lot of interactivity, but that's going to be there. All right, so now let's just write like clear get status, and we have this 034 right here. So now let's just add that to our staging area, and then can write a commit for that, like get commit -m, and then just write a commit like, I don't know, text formatter would be fine. And now finally let's just push that to our GitHub repository. Okay, so it will now push it to our GitHub repository, and now we are good to go. So if you refresh this browser, so if we just check for 034. Alright, so here you can see we have this text format right here. So here you can see we have this JavaScript code right here. And by the way, you can refactor this code to a switch and cases. And if you want to take that as a challenge, so that's going to be a challenge for you, like to change this code to a switch and cases if you want to. It will be looking a bit clear, but you know what, that's going to do it for now. Alright, so this is our HTML code, and then finally this is our CSS code right here. Okay, so I guess that was it about tonight's video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.